Today, we're tackling one of the biggest questions out there about building your financial future. And you know what? The answer is probably not what you think. It turns out that when you start investing is way more powerful than how much money you actually start with. So let's dive in and see how this actually works. This is the one, isn't it? It's one of the most common and honestly, most important questions anyone can ask about their money. It can feel really intimidating, but today we're going to break it down with some surprisingly simple math. This whole thing came up because a friend literally asked me this over coffee the other day. It's just a perfect reminder that we're all trying to figure this stuff out. So, what a great place for us to start. Okay, so before we can even begin to talk about how much to save, we need a target. We have to know what we're aiming for, right? So step one is all about defining that finish line. What does retirement actually look like? To make this whole thing real, let's use a nice round number. We'll base our example on a salary of $60,000 a year. It's a solid, relatable income for a lot of people out there. So, how big of a nest egg do we actually need? Well, a common goal is to retire on about 70% of your income. So, in this case, 42 grand a year. And there's this handy little guideline called the 4% rule that helps us figure out the grand total we need to get there. And boom. Based on that 4% rule, our target number comes out to $1,050,000. I know. You see that number and it can feel totally overwhelming, maybe even impossible. But just stick with me here, because how we get to that number is the really mind-blowing part. And this brings us to the absolute core of what we're talking about today. We are about to see in black and white how the single decision of when you start this journey completely changes everything about getting to that $1 million goal. So, let's imagine 3 different people. They all have the same $60,000 salary. They all have the exact same retirement goal. The only difference? Their starting line. We've got someone in their 20s with a 40-year runway, someone in their 30s with 30 years, and someone in their 40s with only 20 years to go. All right, scenario number 1. If you start investing in your 20s, you only need to put away $2,372 a year. That's it. Just look at how tiny that investment bar is compared to the salary bar. It's incredible. That comes out to just 4% of your pre-tax income. 4%. I mean, for a lot of people, that's less than a car payment or what they spend on coffee. It's a totally manageable amount. Now, let's see what happens if you just wait a decade. You start in your 30s instead. All of a sudden, that annual investment number jumps to over $6,000. You can just see how much steeper that hill has become. The amount you need to save has almost tripled. You now have to put away 11% of your income. It's definitely still doable, but it is a much, much heavier lift, all because of a 10-year delay. And here we go, the final and honestly the most shocking comparison. If you wait until your 40s to get started, the amount you have to invest every single year just skyrockets to over $18,000. I mean, look at the size of that bar. Just let that sink in for a second. You would have to invest almost a third of your entire salary, year after year, just to hit the same goal as the person who started in their 20s, putting away just 4%. The price you pay for waiting is absolutely massive. And that, right there, is really the single most important lesson here. Time is your greatest asset. It's more valuable than having a huge salary. It's more valuable than a big lump sum of cash. The earlier you start, the lighter the lift is for you. So we've seen why it is so important to start early. But how does this magic actually happen? Well, the engine driving all this incredible growth is something called compounding. And really all that is your money making money. And then that money starting to make its own money. And you know what the best part of all this is? You don't have to be some Wall Street genius. You don't need to pick some crazy, complicated secret stock. The way you get this engine running is surprisingly simple, and it's available to literally everyone. The vehicle for all this growth can be something as basic as an S&P 500 index fund. Seriously, by just investing in the 500 biggest companies in the US, you're basically harnessing the power of the entire market, which, historically, has averaged about a 10% return each year. Okay, let's boil this all down into a super clear, actionable game plan. There are really just 3 simple ideas here that make this whole thing work. The path is pretty straightforward. First, you just invest consistently, make it a habit like clockwork. Second, you gotta be patient and just let the power of compounding do all the heavy lifting for you. Now, the source material does mention a third, more advanced step, using things like options to potentially speed up your growth. That's a whole other topic for another day, but it just goes to show you the kind of potential that's out there. And just to show you how powerful your rate of return is, check this out. That same investment our 20-something made gets them to $1 million bucks with that standard 10% return. But if they found a way to boost that return to 15% over the long haul, the final number doesn't just go up a little, it quadruples to almost $4 million. It's just a stunning example of how tiny changes can lead to huge, huge differences over time. When it's all said and done, the most important part of this whole journey is also the simplest one. Just getting started. Taking that first step is what puts the incredible power of time on your side. So the real question isn't if you can start, it's how far are you willing to go once you do. Thanks for listening.